Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Anampario and we are going to learn the histology of thyroid gland. Now you know that thyroid gland is a major endocrine gland which is controlling the metabolic activities of our body. Anatomically, the thyroid gland is located in the anterior neck region. And you know that this thyroid gland, which is located in the anterior neck region, has two lobes. It has two lateral lobes, a right lobe and a left lobe. These two lobes are connected by isthmus in front of the trachea. This is the trachea windpipe. In front of the windpipe, there is the isthmus of the thyroid gland, which is connecting the two lobes of the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is responsible for secreting three hormones: thyroxine, triiodothyronine, and calcitonin. So the gland has such type of, you can say that the gland has different types of cells which are responsible for secreting these types of hormones. These hormones are controlling our metabolic activities. Histologically, when we see the thyroid gland, we find that it is covered by a connective tissue capsule. Now you can see in the microscopic image that this is the connective tissue capsule which is covering the thyroid gland externally, as well as the capsule is sending inside septations, septas, which are dividing the parenchyma of the gland into lobules. So thyroid gland is divided into lobules by the help of the septas which are formed by the connective tissue capsule. In these septas, the blood vessels, the nerves, and the lymphatics pass to the parenchyma. Again, this is a histological image of the thyroid gland, and you can see on a higher magnification that the parenchyma is composed of millions of spherical cyst-like structures. You can see these are spherical, roughly spherical cyst-like structures. They are filled with a fluid, and these cyst-like structures, they are called as the thyroid follicles. Yes, they are called as thyroid follicles. So whenever you take a cut section of the thyroid gland, you will observe that there are lobules, which are because of the septas. Another thing that you are going to find is that millions of cyst-like structures, which are called as thyroid follicles. How these thyroid follicles are made? Now these thyroid follicles, they are made up of a simple cuboidal epithelium. Their lining is of simple cuboidal epithelium. The word simple means single layer and cuboidal means cube-like cells. So single layer of cube-like cells surrounding a central cavity which is filled with a glue-like material called as colloid. So if I ask you that what do you mean by thyroid follicle, you will say that it is a cavity, a colloid filled cavity which is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. This structure is called as thyroid follicle, and a thyroid gland is made up of millions of thyroid follicles. So when you look these thyroid follicles on a higher magnification, you will find that the follicular epithelium is surrounded by a thin basal lamina. We all know that the epithelium always rests on a basement membrane. Now in this image you can see that this is the colloid material. This is the internal central cavity filled with a glue-like colloid material, and it is surrounded by simple cuboidal epithelium which is resting on basement membrane. These cells, they are called as follicular cells. These simple cuboidal cells lining the colloid, they are called as follicular cells. We have another types of cells present in the thyroid gland. They are called as parafollicular cells. Now you can observe that the parafollicular cells are present between the thyroid follicles, near the basement membrane, and they are slightly larger than the follicular cells. The follicular cells are also called as principal cells, and they are from low cuboidal to columnar in shape depending on the activity of the gland. If the gland is hypoactive, then the cell shape is low cuboidal, and if the gland is hyperactive or it is actively secreting the hormone, the shape of the cells is columnar. The cytoplasm of the principal cells stains basophilic with large spherical nucleus. Now you can see that the large spherical nucleus is clearly seen in these cells, while the cytoplasm is basophilic, active in the production of the hormones. The apical modification, the apical surface of these cells have small microvilli. The second type of cells, we said they are parafollicular cells, and you can see that the parafollicular cells, they are either situated within the basement membrane of the follicle, or they are found as isolated clusters between the follicles. So either you will find them in the basement membrane, or you can find them as clusters between the follicles. The follicular cells, they are responsible for the production of thyroxine and triiodothyronine, while the parafollicular cells, they are responsible for the production of the third hormone which is called as calcitonin. They are the parafollicular cells are comparatively larger than the follicular cells, and they stain poorly. When you stain them, they do not take the stain as much as the follicular cells. Hence, these cells are also called as C cells. C stands for clear. So, they are called as clear cells because you can see that they are not staining properly. So, they stain poorly. They have small membrane bound granules which contain the hormone which is called as calcitonin. They all are endocrine hormones. It means they release their secretion into the blood circulation. Okay, ji. Now this is a image which has been taken from the original slides. These are not the Google images. They are taken from the original slides. This is a thyroid gland image which is taken at the magnification at the power of 4 using a light microscope. In this image, you can observe that the thyroid gland is composed of millions of numerous thyroid follicles. You can see this is a thyroid follicle. So there are multiple thyroid follicles. And what is thyroid follicle? Thyroid follicle is a central filled cavity which is filled with the colloid material and lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. This is the same image, the same slide which has been set at the magnification of 10. So the thyroid follicles, they are lined by simple cuboidal epithelium and their central cavity is filled with colloid, which is a glue-like material containing the hormones. In this image, this is a magnified image at the power of 40. You can clearly see the colloid material and you can identify the epithelium. The epithelium is simple cuboidal epithelium. Now, in between these thyroid follicles, you can find larger cells which are called as parafollicular cells. So, what you have to memorize for thyroid gland is that when you take a section of the thyroid gland, it is covered by a connective tissue capsule. The capsule is sending inside septas which are dividing the gland into lobes and lobules. The thyroid gland is composed of millions of thyroid follicles. A thyroid follicle is a centrally filled cavity filled with the colloid material, and it is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium which is resting on the basement membrane. The simple cuboidal cells, they are also called as follicular cells. They are also called as principal cells, and they are responsible for the production of thyroxine and triiodothyronine. In between these thyroid follicles, you find some larger cells. These larger cells are actually taking the stain very poorly, and they are called as clear cells. They are the parafollicular cell. The parafollicular means that they are present in between the follicles or near the basement membrane of the follicles. The parafollicular cells, they stain poorly, they are called as clear cells, and they are responsible for the production of calcitonin. So thank you, my dear students. I hope you like the video. Please like it, subscribe it, and share it. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.